Good afternoon. This is Ron Brown. It's Saturday, March 4th, 2023. I'm going to take a look at the market, or the NASDAQ in particular, and show you how it's changed this week. Before I go any further, here's a standard risk disclaimer. Any stock, index, or ETF mentioned in this presentation is not a recommendation to buy or sell. All trading strategies are used at your own risk. Okay, I've got this set up here. I'll show you where I am for those of you who are not familiar with HGSI and my files. I'm in the designer market analysis user groups. I'm in the first folder. I'm clicking through to the warehouse. Then I just have a couple of charts up here. This is my primary chart for the NASDAQ. It is under market charts. I'm using chart number 1 at the moment, and I'll go down through these. Now, things changed dramatically over the past couple of days, and as you can see, I'm in the NASDAQ composite in both the daily and the weekly charts. Let's take a look at the daily chart first. You can see that there were some excellent VPA flag calls on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday, if you look here, I just clicked on these. You can see strength seen returning after a downtrend. High volume up bar closing on the high indicates strength. And then there was a gap up and a follow through yesterday, and this up bar closing near the high confirms the return of strength. So these were great VPA flags. And on Thursday, there was a pocket pivot with heavier than the volume. Any down volume had been recently. That's why we had a volume pocket pivot, and hopefully we'll be on our way with some sort of run here. I'm going to hit my alternate I key, bring this up, and this shows what the advancing, let me click on this, get it on the correct day. It shows that the volume was above the 90-day moving average, but down from the prior day. Volume was actually higher on this pocket pivot day. And the advancers led the decliners 2205 to 923. So 2.5, 2.75 to 1. Advancing volume was heavier than declining volume. New highs went ahead of new lows. And there was a one-day change of 2%, which is a good gain. Now, the sentiment, as you can see, is now bullish. It wasn't bullish over these several days when we just had several weekdays where the market tried to rally, but it generally closed below where it opens. But it changed dramatically on Thursday. There was a gap down and a lot of fear in the market, and that's when the big money players decided that it had gone far enough and started stepping in and scooping up some bargains. And that's what happened, in my opinion. Now, let's look at the weekly over here. You can see the prior week there was this no supply dot right here. So even though it was a black candle and down a gap from the prior week, look at this volume. Look how low it was. That means there is no supply. So let's bring this up. I'll click on that, and it says no supply, a sign of strength. And that was the prior week. So let's see. This is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday right here. So the prior week consisted of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, those prior 5 days. And even though it was ugly, volume was light. You can see it down here. And on the weekly chart, it just said there was no supply because there wasn't a lot of selling pressure. The markets are all, market stocks are all based upon supply and demand. And that's why volume really needs to be considered when you're doing your analysis. Now let's quickly run through some other views on this. I'm just going to click down to the next one. This compares the NASDAQ to the S&P 500, and you can see because the blue line is going up, it is outperforming the S&P at least over the last day, whereas back here when it was going down, you can see that it was underperforming. Whenever the line's down, it's underperforming the S&P. When it's up, it's outperforming. Okay, the next chart is same chart with an AD line down here, but I've got a better picture of that. First of all, here's new highs, new lows. You can see that the new highs surpassed the new lows as of Friday. Here's the AD line. You can see that it's finally turning up. It's been going down for quite some time, but it turned up. It flattened on Thursday and turned up on Friday. And I don't want that. That's the NYSE. I'm going to look at Ian's multiple chart. You can see there was a kahuna, not a eureka, a kahuna on Friday with this big move up and pretty heavy volume. And most of these indicators up here are green, but not all of them. The Bongo Weekly has stayed green during this pullback. So I'm going to jump back up to the top chart. And let's just take a look over here. The percentage price change from the beginning of the year is up 11.7%. So this 2% gain and Thursday's gain also really helped this. From the beginning of the week up 1.5%, 5-day change 2.6%, closed at 94.26% of its daily range after a 0.50 gap up. AD velocity direction's up, and the Bongo Weekly is now up. It was flat. So things really changed over the past 2 days, but looking at the VPA from the prior week, this really low volume chart tells us there was very little selling pressure, even though it was an ugly day, or ugly several days. So you should look at both the weekly and the daily charts. Now, this got up to the resistance line right here. Here's a resistance line here dating back to this area over here. Hopefully that can be overcome and we can get a run going to the upside. You can see accumulation change from C to B. So a lot of positives on Thursday and Friday. Before I leave this, I want to point something out. There's a lot of subtleties when looking at candles and so on, and sometimes there are contradictions. And let's go back to this weekly chart. This is an effort to rise, but look at this long upper wick up here. That tells you that supply was coming into the market this week, and you can see an upper wick here too. On the following week it rallied and then it fell back, so that means supply was coming in. And here, same thing. If I click on this, what does it say? No demand, a sign of weakness. But if you see those upper wicks on charts, it just means that supply is coming in to the market. Or if a market or a stock opens up and then closes with a black body, it tells you that supply is coming into the market. Notice how these two white candles are totally reversed from that. Demand is suddenly back in to the market. I'm going to make some changes here. I'm going to just go into my broad market indices folder, and then I'm going to go down here to my views for HGSI index analysis, and I have to change a chart over here. So I'll use a quick pick. I'm going to go into get out of my market charts, and I want to go into the HGSI charts. And I'm just going to look at a couple of charts here. This one, but I need to click on this to bring the information into the chart. But let's go down to the S&P 1500, which is the S&P 500, the 600, and the 400. It's the small, mid, and large cap stocks. And take a look at this, and you can see that the percent of the stocks above their 20-day moving average started going up on Thursday and Friday. Now this is a 50-day moving average of the 20. The red line's a 50-day moving average, but you can see that there is movement in the S&P 1500. Now the next chart I'm going to do is go down to the buy and sell chart. And the reason, as I've said many times, I put this together years ago and it still works pretty well. If there is a 5-to-1, at least a 5-to-1 advancers over decliners, you get a dark green bar. And if the advancing volume is at least 5-to-1, a positive on the volume, on the advancing versus declining volume, you get a green bar. This is the Force Index 13-day and the 2-day. The 2-day went positive on Thursday. The 13 flipped over on Friday. The volume point of control went positive on Thursday. It was confirmed on Friday. And since all of these lined up green, that is a buy signal, which corresponds with this test and a confirmation of this with the S&P 1500. Now I can probably go to all of these indexes. Let's look at the S&P 100. You can see that nothing changes over here. It's all green. So let's go down. I want to locate the 500. So you can see there's strong buying pressure and VPA flags on all of these. If you look over here to the side, these are all stocks $5 and up. The advancers were 441. The decliners were 56. So a very strong day overall. I'm going to minimize this. And here's the weekly chart of the index over here. There was a support line here. Now these index charts are calculated for 2 years, and I use market cap weighting because it favors the larger cap stocks. I think it gives me a better reading on what the market's doing. But I'm seeing nothing but positives right now. Of course, that can change at any time, but after Thursday's change, everything turned positive. Now let's do one more thing. I'm going to take a look at the HGS sectors by industry. Click on that. These are the sectors by industry. I can see the consumer discretionary gained the most, but all of these are positive. But if you like, you can prospect from the sectors by industry. I'm just showing you that you can use the HGSI groups. You can go directly to the industries, or you can work from the sector level. I can see that consumer discretionary is on top, up 1.9%, followed closely by technology, then financials, and so on. And you can just prospect from here. Change to the index group, and entertainment facilities is on top. I'm going to bring up that chart. Then I'm going to go down to the industry group level, and there was a stock here that was up 8.3%, but I look over here at the percent range. You can see that supply came into that stock by the end of the day. So let's look at Six Flags, which held up really well, and I'm going to bring that up. I have my daily chart here and my weekly chart here, and let's do some analysis here. Get my pointer out. You can see this long white candle, but before that, after several days of falling, there are VPA flags here. I'll turn this off so we can read these. On Wednesday, strength seen returning after a downtrend. High volume up bar closing on the high indicates strength. This is followed by a confirmation of strength, a up bar closing near its high. That confirms the strength, and then there was an effort to rise, and then it followed through on Friday. If I look over here, you can see that on the weekly chart, this was closing as a bullish candle all of these weeks. This is why we need to really look both at weeklies and dailies, because you get a totally different perspective. It was moving up on light volume, but it was closing near the high all the time. Well, the earnings are nothing to write home about, but that doesn't matter. It's what the perception of a stock is. And it moved all the way up, and then supply came in that week. No demand, a sign of weakness. And then on the prior week, went from no demand to no supply. And then this is what happened this week based upon these bars over here. So it encompasses the last 5 bars to give us this weekly chart here. Or I should say this weekly bar. There's no resistance until you go back here, and that goes back to June of 22. And so it's cleared this, and there was very heavy demand if you look down here at the volume boards. Always look for the cause and the effect. Cause, effect. Cause, effect. Now I've got VPA scans for all of these in my scans here. If you want to scan for them, VPA, these are bullish individual scans, 2-day scans, and so on. But I like to scan sometimes, but rather than that, I just like to go top down like this and see what the signals are. And you can see if there's a signal here, it says yes, effort to rise on this one. And this is Marcus Theater, so let's look at this one. Kind of all over the place on the weekly. There have been some strong weeks. Supply came in here. There's supply above here. You can see the supply on this daily bar right here. That was an effort to fall, but yesterday, there's just too much. You always look to the left. You can see that there's just a lot of resistance on this stock and also on this stock. It's just too choppy for me. The Six Flags, a little bit late now, maybe. Just put it in a watch list, see what happens to it, because it's certainly got the momentum. Then you can go back. You can look at these other groups, or you can go back to the sector. Let's just do one more on the technology. You can see VPA flags, above average volume, spread below average, very high on the close. So I'm going to change to the index group. Other hardware was leading the way here. There's 9, if you look over here, there's 9 advancers and no decliners. Let's go into that. And let's look at the percent range. 3D Systems is one. Hillman Solutions, not familiar with that. Let's take a look at 3D Systems. This is a stock that has come a long way down, as you can see. I'll zoom back into it. Several good weeks, though, as the market went up. And then a no supply here, a no supply here, as supply, or no demand, I'm sorry, I had it right the first time. No supply, no supply. Why? Because the volume is real low, even on these black candles. So what do we have here? You can see there was a strength seen returning after a downtrend. There was an effort to rise with some supply coming in at the end of the day, high volume bar, and then this black bar here. Indecisive because it opened in the middle and closed down, but you can see there was some buying at the end of the day on Thursday, and then on Friday it picked up momentum. Volume was decent, above average, and the close was very high. You've got resistance to the left, we've got resistance to the left here, but probably worth looking at. Once again, earnings momentum is negative, as is the revenue, but money's flowing into these stocks. How do I know? Well, I just look at the candles. Anyway, I'm going to end this video right here. I just wanted to point out that things have really changed since last week just because of Thursday and Friday. So hopefully it will gain momentum. But when you do your prospecting, have a daily and a weekly chart so you can get a feel for both, and use those VPA flags because they really contain a lot of information. And when there's no VPA flag, look at the open and the close of the candles. If they continually close near the high, that means there's buying pressure there, even though volume is really low. You have to take the close into account whenever you're doing your prospecting. Thanks for listening, and one of these days I'm going to get around to doing a webinar series and really get into depth on volume price analysis. Thank you.